Hello my friends, welcome back to another little painting lesson. This week I am going to paint, it's actually a commission. I said, why not do a little tutorial at the same time? So it's a little sailboat, a yacht, big sail coming up. Beautiful clouds in this one. Pictures here behind me. Lots of sunlit clouds. A beautiful yacht with a big sail going right up the centre of the painting. Something simple, but I think very eye-catching. So I'm going to paint it for you this week. I hope you don't mind. I have a canvas here, 16 by 12, primed once, lightly sanded, and I did give this a light coat of linseed oil. Just because it's such a big area when you're painting a big sky, I don't want the colours kind of soaking in too much and becoming patchy. So plenty of oily surfaces for blending. So a very light coat of linseed oil, just with a bit of tissue paper, just quickly over the entire canvas. That's all. So let's try it and have a bit of fun. I'm excited about this one. Lovely colours in this. So yeah, please do join me, and thank you for subscribing. I got a haircut, by the way. It's not too bad, is it? I'll see you very soon. Thank you. Okay, here we go, everyone. There's a reference photograph. Very eye-catching colours, isn't there? I just thought this would make a nice little tutorial for you, as I'm painting it anyway. I have colours. Let me tell you what colours I have. Titanium white, Naples yellow, cadmium yellow pale, magenta, cadmium red, phaylo blue, cerulean blue, black, and burnt umber. A few nice colourful colours on my palette. Now I'm just going to give my brush one quick clean here because it's all paint. I forgot to clean this brush earlier. Let's go. Let's have a bit of fun with this. Lovely sky. Okay, I'm thinking cerulean blue kind of a hue. Let's dampen our big brushes. Any big brush you have will do fine. Let's take some white. Now we don't need too much oil in our brushes, okay? Or thinners, because it's oiled already. So just a little touch, just to break down the paint, really, is all you need. A tiny touch of thinners. Let's take some cerulean blue. I can see beautiful cerulean blue up in that sky. Give that a good mix up. Get right into your brush. Look at all that paint out of the thickness of your brush, the thick part. You see that? It always tends to gather around the ferrule of your brush. So make sure you get all that off. Now, let me take a look. Okay, I'm going to take a touch of magenta. I think just to warm it ever so slightly. That's better. That's exactly what I want. I'm going to go along and put that and get all that thick paint off my brush. It's getting quite old, my brush, so it's starting to gather the paint at the thick end of it. So I may need to replace this brush soon, not too soon, but quite soon. Now let me get this colour on here. Okay, touch of thinners again, lots of white, lots of cerulean blue, and a touch of magenta. Now I am loving the magenta lately because it's such a versatile colour for warming colours on your palette. It can be used for any kind of a scene, really. Snow scenes especially, but summer scenes, still lifes. I always spot a little magenta in the painting when I'm looking at a photograph for painting. I'll always spot a little touch of magenta here and there. It's a beautiful colour. Now I'm going to take a touch more of magenta and then some white. As this comes down, it just starts getting slightly paler into a pale, kind of a warmish blue, okay? It's almost like a bluey mauve kind of a colour. A little bit more magenta. Now we have some lovely warm clouds up here as well, so this will complement those, okay? You see those lovely kind of yellows and oranges that we have in the clouds? This little touch of pink will really complement all those colours, okay? Now as it comes down, you can see there's a nice band of pinky, kind of a warm pink down the bottom, isn't there? So I'm going to just give that brush a quick clean on my tissue paper here. Quick clean. I'm going to take some magenta and I'm going to take a hint of Naples yellow. And that should give me a beautiful pinky colour for the bottom of this. There we go. A little more Naples yellow and a hint of white just to soften it out a little. Put that pinky colour across there. I didn't put masking tape across here, just as a rough guide, okay? You don't need to if you don't want to. And let's go a little bit more Naples yellow in there on this side. And you can see I'm kind of working very thin with these layers. I'm not putting too much thick paint. I'm really making the paint go far. I'm scraping the paint right across this canvas, which is slightly oiled, only slightly. Only just to keep the canvas nice and wet, but not too wet. Do you understand? Does that make sense? Now, as it comes up here, I'm going to take a tiny touch more of the magenta. Okay, just a touch. And a hint of this blue, just to help that transition into the blue there, you see, so we don't get any kind of muddy colours. We do have a big band of cloud going across here anyway. You could just leave that band out if you wish. And all right, now I'm happy enough with that so far. I am going to darken the top ever so slightly. I'll take some cerulean and a hint of phaylo. And then, just to warm it ever so slightly again, a touch of magenta again. Okay, that just gives it that warm shade. Just across the top. Soften it down, just so it's a little bit deeper up on top, just a little. Only slightly. You might not even notice this now, but it's only a little shade darker, that's all. Right, onto these lovely clouds. I'm going to keep my same brush for now. I think it's doing fine. I'll mix this lovely darker shade. Okay, I'll leave these bright ones to last. So a nice dark shade. Let's take some phthalo blue, a little magenta, then some white. I want to go for a nice pinky, purpley grey sort of a hue, okay? A little more magenta and then a hint of black. Then again some white. I want this more on the warm grey side than the blue side of the colour, okay? So a little bit more black. And then again, magenta. So you can see now we've more of a warm grey kind of a hue. And a little bit of white. Okay, there we go. Now let's just try this for a moment and see what we think. Yeah, you see now that's still a little bit on the blue side for me. So I'm going to take a touch more of black, okay? Just grey that up a little bit more. I think that's better. Now I'm just going to go right across here with this for now. Bring it up here. It's a nice thick band of cloud, isn't it? And you can see the way you see the touches of blue and white I have inside my brush here. I can just scraping bits of that off, look, and I'm softening it through. So you automatically get different hues going through the paint. You see that? A little bit of blue, perhaps? Let's try a little bit of blue. I am just simply flicking this around in little circles. That's my technique, okay? Now when we get to the top, you could just kind of let it flick out little dabs of colour here and there. It's really very random as it comes up, isn't it? There we go, a little flick off there. Little couple of dabs. Right, now, don't worry about this because we can soften all of this together with the soft brush in a moment. Let's take some more black and a hint of magenta again. And I just want to darken a little bit here and there. Okay, just on this side. I just want to create a little bit of tone going through the clouds. Do you understand what I mean? Just a little tiny bit. Touch of it, just a touch, here and there. Now as it comes down here, I'm going to just kind of let this disappear off like that. Look, at the very bottom of the clouds, just drag some little tiny pieces out here and there. Just to soften it down into the horizon. You see what I mean? Okay, now the next step is soften. And I need to find a nice soft brush. My brushes are really getting very old. I'm going to have to invest in some new makeup brushes. I may have to take a trip up to my wife's makeup cupboard upstairs when she's not here and take a little look around, a little root around, and see what I can find. And just, I'll say nothing if you don't. I'm sure you can keep a little secret. And we'll go up and see what's there. Have a look. Pop a couple of them into my pocket without telling. Sure, she has plenty anyway. There's no shortage of makeup brushes in my wife's cupboard, I can tell you that. A couple of foundation brushes would be nice. Now, let's just soften this out. Look. So there, we have a nice little sky there. Nice little sky going on. And the focus for this really is on the sailboat. Do you understand? I'm not kind of too fussed about the sky in this painting. Now, what I want to do next is take some tissue, dampen it in some turpentine, and simply, where these nice bright clouds here, I just want to take off that bit of blue, okay? I just want to rub that off. Just makes life easier putting on oranges, okay? Oranges and yellows makes life much easier. Now, I think that's fine. Onto a smaller brush. My nice little flat brush I have here, look at that, lovely. Let's create a nice warm colour. This colour that we made earlier, except brighter. I'm going to dry this brush now really well. I want this to stick properly. Some Naples yellow, some magenta. And already that colour is probably just what I want. It's like a nice bright salmony kind of a colour. You take a look. Okay, I'll start with this now, just to get a little bit of this in here first. There's lots of colours going through this cloud, okay? It's one of those bright sunlit clouds with lots of variations of colours. I'll take a little touch in cadmium yellow, look, with some white as well. And I'm just going to put that there as well. A little bit of the yellow just towards the front of the cloud where the sun hits. Okay, give that a wipe, just take off that colour. Get some magenta. Then I'm going to take a hint of cadmium red as well. And I'm going to put that nice warm colour just underneath and behind some of those as well, look. Now because we have that lovely red on our brush, we can then sort of start bringing it down into these clouds here, you see that? So we can soften them into that without worrying about them going muddy. Because it's red and blue, so it'll end up a nice mauve purpley colour. So a little bit more pink in that. Take a bit of pink, push that down into these clouds here, look. So I want them all kind of to sort of blend together slightly. Okay, now, again, magenta, little cadmium red. And I'll try a hint of burnt umber in this one, just a hint. So they're getting slightly darker and darker as we go. As we go back further in the cloud, it gets darker and darker. Now I need to make a nice warm plum. Phaylo blue, magenta. And a little touch of cadmium red. That'll give me a beautiful plum colour. And it's more on the red side. See what I mean? A lot more on the red. The warm side, should I say. Now this big cloud up here has a beautiful shade on one side, doesn't it? Leave that disappear off. As I like to say, leave it fizzle out into the cloud around it. Down here then, I'm just going to literally soften this back in. Isn't that looking nice already? A nice feature in the sky. It's a real prominent feature, isn't it, this cloud? As I have this colour, I'm going to put one of these little ones in over here, just a shadow side of some of these. And one or two here, like that, okay? Just one or two. Now I'm going to go darker again. I'm going to take phthalo blue, magenta, and a hint of black. and maybe a hint of brown as well. So it's a warm, dark, shady colour. Okay, there we go. And just rough it up. Let little bits of cloud just taper off, disappear into the sky. So it's almost merging down into the cloud underneath. I'll take some of that colour, pop it up here and behind one or two of these. I'm not going over this nice bright area too much. I want to keep that. I quite like that. A little bit of shadow on back ends of these. Now I'll take some black and a hint of brown again. And I'm going to put some of that nice dark colour through here and there, look. And bring it down into the clouds. And you could even add a little touch of that here and there on some of these clouds as well. Just to help it kind of transition downwards. Do you understand what I mean? Rather than just being kind of sitting there planked in the middle of the sky. Couple over here, nice dark ones popping out. Now I'll soften that, I think. I'll get my brush and start softening. Just give the brush a quick wipe. Soften, start with the bright shades and go over to your darker shades, softening everything through. We want it nice and fuzzy. Do you understand what I mean? Nice and kind of soft and fluffy. Fluffy cloud. Do the same with all of these here. Just soften them back in slightly. You can see I'm not softening them too much. I'm keeping the shapes at the same time, but I'm not softening them in too much. Now over here, let's just soften a couple of these as well. All right. Now, I'm going to stand back and take a look. You need to have a good look at this. I'm going to go a little bit warmer, I think, with those lights, with those orangey colours. I need to really create a real impact up here. I'm going to take some cadmium yellow and cadmium red. And then some Naples yellow. That should really lighten this up a little bit. Give us a nice bright colour. Pop a little bit of that in here and there, look. A bit more Naples yellow. And add a couple up here. I'll take some Naples yellow with some white, a hint of cadmium yellow, and just add some real nice brights into some of these clouds. Touch of magenta, just to warm slightly on these ones. I'm just being careful with the yellows against the blues. I tried to make that kind of a more pinky hue, perhaps. Just where it's hitting the blue, you see, just because I don't want any kind of muddy greens or anything like that on my palette, or on my canvas, on my sky. So I'm just being very careful with those shades. Now I'm going to take a little bit of that. Just add a little bit of that in here as well. Now I think I might just leave it, because I really want to get down and get onto this boat that we're doing. So I'm going to soften some of these out. Just a touch. Make these nice and soft. Let's go. Have a bit of fun with this cloud. I can come back and add little highlights later as well, you see. Okay. Let's go down and fill in the water. And the water now is really just straightforward enough. I'm not going to make it too complicated. So I'm going to go for a nice dark colour first. Let me get some black and some phthalo blue. And there's lots of magenta again in this. This is a very blacky, pinky kind of a colour down here in the ocean, isn't it? Very dark. We can add lights to this then in a moment. But I just want to get this dark shade first. I'm looking at the dark shade of the ocean. That's what I'm looking at. That very dark kind of blacky grey in between all the whites. Put that in first. Okay. Then add some white as it comes down. Take a bit of blue. Let's fill that in. Now, I am going to just really use the palette knife, I think, just for the rest of this. So I'm going to grab my flat palette knife. See this lovely flat palette knife I have? I'm going to grab that. I'm going to take some white and a little hint of cerulean blue. Okay? With that grey, make a very bright colour. And what I'm going to do really is simply just go along and create lots of highlights, okay? Scrape left and right and try and be as straight as you can with this, okay? It doesn't matter now if you kind of wiggle it or give it a little bit of a curve or anything, because we can soften this with our soft brushes. But I just want to create very rough ocean, just lots of little highlights on the water, you see that? Left and right, left and right. And I'll go really bright then in a moment. But just for now, just this little hint of light colour. A bit more white. See, just capturing the light. Now I'm going to mix cerulean blue with lots of white. I hope you're enjoying this so far now. It's just nice and simple, nice simple tutorial, but nice colours. You know what I mean? Nice bright colours. Let's take some of this light bluey colour. A bit more cerulean, I think. Come on, let's go crazy with the blue. A little bit of blue in there. Now I have to put my canvas out slightly just to get the ends. All right. Do apologise. Just to get down here. You can see I'm just being very, very loose. Try not to overthink when you're doing this, okay? That's, I find, the major problem when people are trying to paint stuff like this. They overthink it too much. Just go for it. Look, just get the paint on there. Just go for it. And that's nice little blue now. It's really capturing the light, isn't it? Nice and rough. Nice. A rough ocean, but it's not very rough. Do you understand what I mean? Now you can, if you want to, you could go along and put big crashing waves and all that kind of stuff in here. But I think that might spoil the soft look of the painting. That kind of soft look that I'm getting. So I don't want to go crazy with waves and splash and all that kind of thing. Perhaps a little at the boat, but not too much really. Now, a little bit more blue, and a bit of blue across there. I hope this is showing up on camera, okay, color-wise. I know some of my tutorials, the last tutorial I did had very rich saturation in the color for some reason. It's probably to do with the lighting inside the studio here. Sometimes it can get very yellow or something like that. Hard to explain. I'm going to go now for a darker color. Go for black. Into that blue there, look. And a little hint of magenta. And you can see I'm only using little touches of colour. I'm not going crazy with huge lumps of colour. Because at the end of the day, when I'm finished, it's just going to be thrown in the bin. So it makes no sense to be putting huge dollops of colour on the palette if you're painting a small picture. Just as much as you think you'll need. Now a little bit of that dark going through this. Here and there. Again, let me pull this forward. Yeah. Okay, now I could go a bit darker on top. Just a bit. I go with burnt umber and a little black. And a little magenta. The magenta ties everything together, you see. Because if you have a little touch of magenta in lots of your mixes, it will tie all the colours together. Now you will need to be careful, obviously, but if you just kind of introduce it to some of your colours as you're going along, it will really warm your painting. And that's kind of why I'm going towards magenta for a lot of my latest tutorials. It's just, it warms the paintings lovely, it really does. Okay, now I'll stop at that and take a look. Right, let's do our boat. Let's crack on and do our boat. I'm going to start with this big sail coming up here. I'm going to go for burnt umber, I think, with this. Just on its own, little burnt umber. Let's pick a point. So I'm going to say around here, going up at this kind of an angle. Right all the way up high. Okay? Now I'll take a little Naples yellow in that. So that gives us a nice sort of a marbly kind of a feeling. So you need to scrape this a couple of times. Now if you want, you can just use a ruler for this. You could leave the sky dry if you're nervous and just use a ruler. Okay, there we go. And we have another one beside it. It's on the same boat, isn't it, actually? Another one kind of coming up like that. Okay. All right, let's take a look. Little touch of black towards the end. Now I'm being careful, I don't want to ruin this completely. So I am trying to be a little careful. And the sails, you could leave all of this dry. I still might leave it dry. But I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll just do this boat. Yes? Let's try the boat and see what happens. Again, I'm going to be painting over a lot of this now, so I need to be careful. I get some cadmium red and some burnt umber. And some Naples yellow. With all those on my brush, not even mixed, I'm just going to dab, dab, dab like that. Look, just go right over that. The shape of the boat comes down and around like that. You can kind of get the idea. Cadmium yellow with cadmium red. It's just creating some colour on top of the boat, that's all. In fact, you could probably even use a palette knife for this. Let me try it. Should we try it? Come on, let's go for it. Let's have a bit of fun with the palette knives today. Yellow and red. Give us a nice orange. Now, let's try it. Come on. Yeah, you see? Just throw it on there. Don't be shy. Don't be shy at all. Again, it's just a suggestion. All right? I keep saying that. It's only a suggestion of just lots of stuff going on the boat. So, look, don't be a bit shy about it at all. See? Take some burnt umber with cadmium red. Put some of that on the back end over here. All right, just leave it just kind of dot around. Don't be afraid. It's only paint, you won't ruin it. And if you do ruin it, you can go back over it again. Okay. Now, the side of the boat. I'm actually going to wet this and take off some of that colour there, okay? Just to make life a little easier for me. I'm going to use my flat brush and just drag off some of that blue. There we go. And now, the bottom piece of that boat, I'm going to try Naples yellow with white first. I'm going to try some of that. So let's just go for it, okay? Let's not be afraid. Okay, clean the brush, pick up fresh colour. Like so. Take some burnt umber with cadmium red and stop that here. Bring a bit of that down. Like so. Just some more burnt umber. And then a nice dark colour for the back of the boat. Let's go burnt umber, black and a bit of magenta. I will add a little purple onto this as well. So you can kind of see now we're just beginning to get the shape of the impression of a boat, aren't we? It's all about just the impression, creating the illusion of something. I much prefer to do something like that, create an illusion, rather than trying to paint every little tiny detail. Now, a bit of purple. Okay, I need more white. Let me stand back and take a quick look at this. Now, this will all begin to make sense once we start putting on little tiny details, okay? But I'm just filling all of this rough area in just for now. You get some white into that blue. Put a little highlight there. Okay, and we can put a little dots of blue here and there on the boat. And I go over again that side. I'm going to take some cadmium yellow with lots of white. I really want to give this a nice bright side. Then suggest a couple of little details here and there on the boat itself. Well, they're not details, they're little tiny dabs of colour, you see that? Right, I'm moving to my small detail brush. I'm going to take a little touch of black. Or brown, actually. Put a little dot of brown in the centre of that. And with that now, let's just kind of add a few tiny touches of details here and there. They're really only just details, okay? So don't be worried. Look, little tiny little suggestions of bits and pieces. Now I'm going to get some cadmium red and put the impression of someone standing on the edge of the boat. Could be like a bright red life jacket or something like that. Okay, and another one there. A little bit of black, perhaps for a helmet. Take a little white. Now I'm going to take some black with a little blue and just put a dark colour, just a nice dark colour down under here. And then I'm going to cut across that with some white and some cerulean blue. I'm going to cut right across that, okay? Just to separate it from the water. Just to make it stand out that little bit. Next, I'm going to add some reflections, just a touch of reflections, okay? Like, for example, little touch of the orange. See, just here and there. Look, a little flick of it going through. Some brown with some red. So you can see it's just a touch. That's all. Touch of colour. Now I'll take some white and I just want to cut off just that from the rest of the water, okay? So you can see how quick I'm kind of moving now through this. Now a little bit of white, perhaps just for a little rough water just towards the end, back of the boat. Okay? I think I'm beginning to get the idea of what I'm doing. Okay, sails. Now sails will be tricky because we have a lot of blue here, don't we? So what I'm going to do is, first just to draw very quickly the sail. I'll use some of this orange, actually I'll use some of the purpley colour we have here. Just very watery. I want to get a loose sketch, a very, very loose sketch of this sail, okay? So the first one, it comes like this. It looks like one big sail, but it's actually two separate sails, isn't it? I'm going to get my stick. Pardon me. I should have got my stick, shouldn't I? Yeah. Okay. These are a little bit wider, I would say. And we have another one. Comes down like that. Very loosely, just be very loose with all of this. And it kind of comes out like that and down, doesn't it? Now this one over here, this is simple. It comes out and in like that. So you see, now what I can do is get some tissue paper, dampen that tissue paper slightly, and take off this blue, okay? Try and take off some of the glue at least. This should help just when filling in that colour, okay? That nice bright colour. Should make a big difference. Try it. Okay, that'll do fine. Rightio, I'm just going to replace my thinners for a moment. I'm going to get some Naples yellow because I'll be doing a lot of this with the palette knife. I think the palette knife will just have better coverage power. Would you agree? Let's try it. Let's get the palette knife out and let's do this. Okay, I'm going to mix a nice orangey hue, a peachy hue rather. Magenta, Naples yellow and cadmium yellow. It's very pinky, isn't it? Take a bit of white. It is very pinky, I must say. It's warm though, isn't it? It's a very warm shade of pink. Okay, let's try this. Yeah, I'll go with that. That's nice. I like that. Now, just go to the edge, drag it in. Up there. You see what I mean? Look, just have a bit of fun. Grab your colours and have a bit of fun. Don't be shy at all. Okay, now, all right, I did make a slight mistake on that one, but we can fix it, don't worry. At the end of the day, they're only all happy mistakes, aren't they? It's all there. Because we're learning something. With every brush stroke we do, we're learning something. Now, doesn't that cover much better? If I was using a brush for this now, I would be here forever, trying to get that paint to cover that blue underneath. I would be here forever, let me tell you. But now, it's as easy as that. Okay, now we have a nice little bit of blue. Or should I do the outside one first? I'm not sure. Let's try the outside one. Let's get some Naples yellow with white. And just make that one slightly brighter, I think. And you see, whichever way you do it, you can still finish it with your pointy brush. You can go along the edges with your pointy brush as well. Okay? So, don't be afraid. This just really helps when blocking in a big area like this. If you want a nice solid colour, just really helps. There we are. So I have the basic outline of the sail in, don't I? Now it's time to start getting some shadows in there. I'm going to mix a nice mauve for the first piece. You can see a beautiful shade of mauve in there. Comes down just like that, doesn't it? It's always lovely to work with a palette knife, isn't it? It's just very relaxing. And you know, you don't really have to be too careful when using a palette knife. So you really take your time. I'm going to get a small brush and just start adding little touches into this. Burnt umber with some red. I'm going to go up here and add a little colour in there. Okay. Then I'm going to go over this and I just want to soften out that knife work, okay? There we go. Then I'm going to darken some of this down here. I'm going to get some cadmium yellow, cadmium red, and I just want to darken ever so slightly. Some of that, just a little. Now I don't want to go over this too much because I don't want to spoil it. Next thing I'm going to do is just refine with a very small pointy brush, if I can find it. Where has it gone? There it is. I just want to add a few details up here. So for example, little piece there, and we have another little piece going down like that. And really just to separate these two sails like this, okay? Just to try and separate them slightly. Now we get a bit of black and we have lots of these lines going through there, don't we? Let's go up top. Have a little that in there. It's all coming together slowly, isn't it? Now I may be kind of slightly off with my drawing in terms of the sails compared to the boat, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. As long as we just have a bit of fun with this, that's all that matters. Look, I'm going to draw some lines coming down. Okay. Now I go for a slightly darker purple, just down the bottom down here, okay? I want to put a nice dark purple just in there. Like that. Okay. Next we're going to have some lovely bright colours. Now there is one colour I want to get in, and it's a lovely orangey colour up here. And it's really lovely. I'm going to take some of that cadmium yellow or cadmium red. I'm just going to pop that in just along there. It's a beautiful colour. Let's take a bit more, and you can see how the colours really kind of mix together very quickly. So put plenty on and then don't lift off. Look. There. Next I'm going to put in that lovely bright white that we have going along the edges. And I can see it's just simply cadmium yellow and white. Lots of it, lots of white. Maybe a hint of Naples, why not? Clean your brush after each brush stroke. That will give you a nice solid clean line, okay? This one kind of goes like that. Then it stops and turns around like that, doesn't it? Then you could even take some white. Why not stick a bit of white in there? Brighten it up even more. Now, how's that? I'm going to move on to my next sail. Okay. The lovely pinky sail over here. Magenta, Naples yellow. Okay, then I'm going to darken it as it comes up. So up around the top, make a nice warm plum colour, and let's darken it, just to add a little bit of varied colour to it, okay? Then I'll take even a bit of black, pop a little bit of black up there, like so. Now I'm going to go for a nice rich colour as well. Again, cadmium red and cadmium yellow. And I want to pop a little touch of that orange in there, okay? Just a touch. Just a touch. And just, again, really a few little details. Small details. A little bit of black, I would say, towards the end of these big pieces of wood here. Now let me stand back and take a look at this. Okay, I can see just one or two small details which I'd like to put in, and I need to be very careful, okay? There's tiny little ropes coming down. I'm going to use my stick for this. Let's just give a tiny flick like that. They're very thin, you can barely see them. See what I mean? Just like that, tiny bits. And I think lastly, I might just, let me just going to see now, I'm going to darken this piece here. Like that. Okay, I'm just looking around now to see what could I improve on. I could probably improve on a lot, but look, doesn't matter. I'm going to tip away with this when I'm finished. I will tip away and just have a look around. Perhaps just add little tiny details here and there. I may. I'll see how it turns out. A couple of these in there. I'll put a little bit of that coming off of that one there. And a little bit. Let's actually fill in that line. Okay, my friends. Lastly, I think I'll just take some very light blue. And I think I'll just pop a little touch of movement in here and there. Now, another thing as well, the reflections from those sails, you probably will see them in the water. So I'm going to add just a hint of colour in the water, okay? Go with that nice red colour that we have there. Look, just tiny, tiny hint of it. You can kind of see what I mean. It's just showing ever so slightly in the water. Perhaps a little of the Naples yellow as well. That's a very prominent colour there, that Naples yellow. And there we are. I'm happy to call that finished. Well, I do hope you've enjoyed this, my friends. I must put a bird, don't I? I have to put a little seagull. If it's a seascape, you have to put a little bit of a seagull here and there, don't you? Let's put one over here. Let's put 2 or 3, in fact. Just like that. A little group of seagulls. Then we'll take some black. Pop a little black on the edges of the wings. Then a little in the middle there and by the legs. And there we are. A little group of seagulls. Following the boat along, hoping to get some fish, I would think. Okay, we leave it at that. And now we call that finished, my friends. I do hope you enjoyed it. I might do a bit of work on the water here just to create more solid movement in it. But, you know, I think for now, I am happy enough at this. I will probably darken the water a little, I think. Just make it that bit darker. especially down towards the front down here. I'm just going to make that a little darker and make a slightly darker grey blue kind of a colour, okay? I think I will. Yes, I will. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed that. Thank you so much. Let me turn the camera. There we go. Done. Thank you, my friends. I hope you've enjoyed watching me paint a little sailboat out at sea. I'll see you next week. Happy painting, my friends, and God bless. Thank you so much.